Yo, what's up fanbase, it's your boy Blaze Hollow coming at you again with another What If. This time I'll be bringing you What If Deku Had All for One Part 8. But before we get into all that, I want to let you know that we do have a Discord server that will have a link down below. But with all that said, that's all. Roll that intro.
Kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me.
I do want to let you all know that I will not be doing a recap, so if you also want to know what happened in the last part, please go check out part 7. Izuku was a little bit hesitant to speak back to Overhaul as he looked over at his door, making sure that no one was there as he sat down on his bed and took a deep breath. I want to cut to the chase. I came to claim what's mine, which is the prize money and quirks that you promised me. Overhaul was a little bit confused when he heard the word quirks, which means that he owes him more than one when he only promised him one. You might want to refresh my memory a little bit on our agreement, because all I can remember from our little deal is that I owe you one quirk, not multiple. Izuku didn't miss a beat as he pulled the flash drive out of his pocket and just looked at it in his right hand as his left hand was holding onto the phone. You're right, you're only owing me one quirk, but what if I said I have information on genetic research on quirks and evolution, along with the ability that could give you information on how to clone an ancient race that has more power than people do with modern day quirks? Overhaul actually sat up in his chair as he took a tight grip on his cell phone and he took a very serious tone. I would say that I'm all ears and that I'm open to negotiation if this information is real. Izuku smiled, knowing that he had Overhaul in the palm of his hand. I say that we meet up later tonight so we can negotiate face to face. Overhaul was a little bit hesitant wanting to meet face to face, realizing the situation that both parties are in. How do I know you're not going to just bring a bunch of heroes with you and get my entire organization arrested? Izuku chuckled a little bit at that answer. Well, the same thing could be said about you. What's stopping you from bringing your entire organization from taking the information that I have and just giving me a quick death? Overhaul grinned, realizing that the kid has learned a lot since the last time he seen him. Fine, then me and you will meet face to face. I'll text you the coordinates of the restaurant that we can gather at so we can have this conversation. Izuku got a little bit more relaxed as he leaned up against the wall next to his bed, happy that everything was going according to plan. That's fine, I feel like I can trust you, Overhaul, since you saved my life multiple times at the Fight Club. I also kind of feel like we could be good friends in the future. Overhaul was actually very amused by the boy's kind words. Careful telling me that people could end up using it against you, but luckily for you, kid, I actually really like you, so I'll play fair, so I'll see you tonight. Izuku and Overhaul both hung up the phone at the same time as Izuku laid back on his bed thinking about all the things he's about to do as he hears a familiar voice. As he looks over to see the spiritual form of All for One, as he looked very amused by his successor. Even without much teaching, you already seem to know what you need to do and how much you're willing to trust in Overhaul. Izuku thought about it for a minute as he calmly put a joyful smile on his face. I say that I could trust him with my life. Sure, he's dangerous, but I think after we met that one night that I sparked something inside of his mind that makes him want to change. All for One put his hand to his chin thinking about all that. It's good that you trust him, but don't let your guard down. He could be a great ally in the future, but again, since he works in the underground, you don't know what he will do to make sure that his own goals get done. Izuku was getting a little bit annoyed as he sat up looking at his predecessor. I understand all that, but don't we think that he has the right to have the benefit of the doubt after all he's done for us? All for One started to have an uneasy feeling as he started to think about the doctor. I guess I just have an uneasy feeling about anyone in the medical field ever since we found out about what my old ally used to do behind my back. Izuku got very angry thinking about that, but then calmed down, wanting to change the subject. Hey, I was wondering if you could actually teach me some of the abilities and tricks of the quirks that you've given me along with the ones that I've taken. All for One actually got quite excited delighted knowing that Izuku was finally ready to start training. Yes, there's a lot of things I can start teaching you, but the question is, do you plan on keeping all the quirks that you have so far, or do you plan on passing them on to someone else? Izuku started to think of the idea that he should give some of the quirks that he's taken to his friends. There are some I want to give away, but there are some that I really need to keep. Plus, I actually need to go through the ones that I took today since I didn't get some of their names. All for One just stood there in his spiritual form thinking about what he should actually tell his successor. I guess before you start giving them away, I should start teaching you the basics of your quirk at its very core. Basically breaks down to you having 4 abilities. The first one is that you are able to take and give quirks to people. The second one is your forcible quirk activation, where as long as you're in contact with someone, you could actually forcibly activate their quirk against their will. This actually brings us into your third ability, where you're actually able to forcibly shut down somebody's quirk. As long as you're in contact with them, they are actually just as normal as somebody who is quirkless. And the last ability allows you to combine quirks together, making them into combinations that would usually never exist. This last one is your greatest blessing, but also your greatest curse. I tell you to use this with extreme caution, making your next combination of quirks together. It takes a lot of concentration, and you have to know that the 2 quirks could actually work together, because if you try making it on the fly and it screws up, it could actually blow up in your face. Izuku was awestruck, amazed by the power of his original quirk. I understand that this is supposed to be a lot to take in, but I can't believe that a while ago I used to be quirkless and now I have the greatest quirk in the world. All for One was delighted knowing that Izuku understood the weight that was placed upon his shoulders. Yes, but don't ever forget about the powerful quirks that you have at your disposal now, along with the original set that I gave you, which could have already given you such a great future. Izuku started to think back, remembering his original set, which was All for One, Clone, Wind Blast, and a special quirk that doubled his lifespan. Now that I actually really think about it, that set alone probably could have just made me a famous hero. All for One clapped his hands together as a chalkboard manifested. Since all of this was going on inside of Izuku's head, he thought that it was actually easy to do. Now then, let's point out all the new quirks that you have, along with the 5 that you actually got no information with, so if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't know what to do with them. Izuku chuckled a little bit hearing that statement. Yeah, sorry about that. I know that it was a big risk taking in all those quirks at once, and it could have actually turned me back into that creature, but I let my emotions guide me instead of actually thinking about it. All for One starts writing on the chalkboard, listing all the different quirks that Izuku's taken over the time he's had it. I understand that what you saw rattled your emotions, but with the power that you have, you need to realize that you can't just go crazy like that. You need to stay firm and concentrated. If you allow yourself to override by your emotions, you could end up turning back into that creature and never being able to return. And you could end up hurting the people that you actually want to help without even realizing it. Izuku tries to think of ways to keep his emotions in check so he doesn't allow himself to do something like that again. Do you have any pointers on how to keep my emotions in check? All for One finished writing down on the chalkboard all the information that he's going to need for this lecture. I do have a few pointers, but I think it's actually best for you to learn how to do things on your own instead of relying on me for the answers. You were doing that to begin with. Don't let that change. People are supposed to fail so they can learn from their mistakes. Trust me on that. If I could tell you all the times I made a mistake, we would be here for years, but I truly believe that you'll figure out on your own way to become an excellent hero. Izuku smiled happily hearing the reassurance from his predecessor. Right, but I think it's time we got back to the main topic, so remind me about all the quirks that I have. All for One turned the piece of chalk that he was using to write on the chalkboard into a pointer stick so he could point to the left side of the chalkboard to start the lecture. Alright, then I'll start with the quirks that you got from the Fight Club because they're probably the most fresh in your mind, which is Connect the Dots, Muscle Augmentation, and Gold Touch, along with a special case with a quirk known as Ghoul. Izuku was confused when he heard his mentor say that the Ghoul quirk was a special case. Why do you say that one is a special case? Is it because what the doctor did to it? All for One had a very sour look on his face because he didn't really want to say what was on his mind. Sadly, yes, unfortunately, the quirk eventually mutated between the Berserker one and its original one. It has a lot of capabilities like high regeneration, high defense, special strength enhancement, and you can sprout a very special and powerful tail. Plus, all of your senses are heightened to the max. But this quirk also again relies on you having a strong mental focus, because if you give in to your bloodlust or rage for even a second, this quirk will consume you. And yes, this will actually make you a lot more powerful, but you'll lose your sense of self and just start attacking anything within sight to make sure that you win. Izuku just nodded while understanding. It seems that I'll have to do a lot of mental exercises, so why don't you get down to explaining to me about the quirks that I got from the laboratory? All for One turned to the right side of the chalkboard, making sure that his pointer stick was pointing towards all the new quirks for Izuku to understand. This is where it's going to get a lot more complicated. Like I explained before, you only know 2 of the quirks you got from somebody, and the other one you actually miss an opportunity to snag a very powerful quirk. But I feel like you did that out of respect for Plague, right? Izuku grabbed onto both of his sides, starting to get a major chill remembering how Plague sacrificed her life trying to give them information. I guess that you could say it's both out of consideration and ignorance. I didn't think that I could take quirks off of a dead body, but even if I did know, I don't think that I would do it. It's just not right. All for One put both of his hands on Izuku's shoulders, trying to calm him down. I know that it's a sad thing to think about, but you can't let it drag you down. It is true that All for One can actually contain quirks off of a dead body, but I will say that I have a lot more respect for you for not using it, because I have to agree with you, taking her quirk after all she did to try to help you would be in poor taste. Izuku started to raise his head, seeming like he actually had a very important question. Do you think I'll be able to speak to the vision versions of the peoples whose quirks that I take from? All for One actually started to chuckle in amusement. It's actually up to them to want to reach out to you, because each one of the quirks that you have is a version of that person. However, since you took their quirk, you're actually their successor as well. And once they reach out to you, you'll be able to converse with them like you do with me, and they'll teach you everything that they know. Izuku was actually surprised, realizing that he had so many teachers to learn from. This is going to be very interesting, but let's get back to the lecture, because I keep on cutting you off about all the quirk explanations, so I'm very sorry for that. All for One excited to continue, almost looking like he enjoys being a teacher. Alright then, the 2 quirks that you know about are known as liquid nitrogen and foxfire. Both are very powerful in their own way. Liquid nitrogen allows you to basically make a liquid substance around your hand and spray it out, and whatever it comes in contact with besides yourself will instantly freeze. While on the other hand, foxfire allows you to make small flames on your fingertips and launch them out. It's not supposed to be that powerful, but if you're very lucky and talented, the techniques that you could create could be made to be very smart and illusion based. Izuku got curious on how to actually try to activate those 2 quirks, and on his left hand he actually ignited the flames, which actually came in 5 different colors of the color spectrum, looking like a rainbow. He then shut down the quirk as he looked at his other hand, making a puddle of liquid nitrogen and wondering what he should test it out on. He then looked around the room as he noticed his old shirt, and he just dropped the puddle of liquid nitrogen on it as it instantly freezed. Wow, this is actually interesting, but I don't feel like liquid nitrogen is something that I'll ever want to use. I'd be afraid of killing somebody with this, so I'll probably have to find somebody to give it to. For One fake cough, trying to get Izuku's attention again. Yes, both of them are very interesting, but they're nothing compared to the ones I'm about to tell you about. They're truly powerful, and they will take a lot of time to train. The first one is known as miasma. It allows you to make a gas-like substance from your pores that will make people see their greatest fears and cause them to have a lot of mental damage, but if you're not careful, you could be affected by this as well. The next one is called Battlefield. This one's actually really good for analyzation, for where it allows you to see your opponent's quirks and ability and personalities, and best of all, their actual bad habits. The downside is that you have to be struck by one of your enemies, and they have to stay within range of you. That range will depend on how much energy you are actually willing to put into this ability, so keep that in mind. Izuku wished that he had a notebook right now to write all this cool information down, but as he looks around the room, he wasn't actually able to find a notebook, and he didn't want to go asking anybody in the family because he didn't really want to get questioned about it. Both of those definitely sound powerful and will need a lot of control. It seems that I have a habit for picking up mental straining quirks. All for One started chuckling, thinking that Izuku really doesn't have the greatest luck when it comes to picking out new abilities. Well, it just shows that you have a lot of training to do, but I should get back to explaining the last of them. I think that the next one is actually something very simple for you. It's called vanishing. As long as you are able to hold your breath, you can actually completely erase your entire existence. No one will be able to sense or feel you until you actually release the quirk. The fourth one is actually a very special quirk. It's called liquefaction. This allows you to turn your body into water and manipulate any liquid around you, but the more liquid that you are actually trying to manipulate, the more strain it will cause on your body. So I suggest that you do a lot of physical training to help put up with that sheer intensity that you'll be putting yourself through. And this last one is actually one of my personal favorites of the entire group. It's called regeneration field. With this, you are able to actually make a dome around you and anybody within 5 meters of you to be able to heal 5 times faster than normal. Before Izuku could say anything about these abilities, he heard a knock at his door as Toya actually opened it to see how Izuku was holding up. Hey there, little bro. I heard the whole story from Dad. I just came down here to see how you were holding up and seeing if you wanted to talk about anything that you've been going through. Izuku smiled as he noticed All for One actually disappeared as he looked right back at Toya. I'm doing fine. I'm just still processing everything because everything keeps on changing. I'm finding out about a secret history that could literally change everything about the entire world. Toya had a very sad expression on his face as he was trying to figure out a way to comfort his little brother. I wish I could say I understand what you're going through, but you also need to understand that everyone has their own issues and needs somebody else to help them feel better about that. Take me, for example. My quirk actually isn't compatible with my body. Izuku's eyes actually went wide, surprising to hear that actual statement. What do you mean? How is that even actually possible? Toya put both of his hands on his face and then his elbows directly onto his knees. It's a rare genetic thing that actually could cause your quirk to end up hurting you more than helping you. For example, my quirk is known as cremation, where it allows me to make a flame that can basically burn through anything, but because my body is actually meant for an ice quirk, it hurts me and burns away my own flesh. So I have to be very careful on how long I use it, or else my body gets covered in burn scars. Izuku got excited as he jumped off of the bed and onto his feet. I actually might have something that could help you. I recently got my hands on an ice type quirk. Well, technically it's actually called liquid nitrogen, but if I combine it with your original quirk, maybe we can end up making a quirk that doesn't end up hurting your body anymore. Toya was completely caught off guard with a surprised look on his face. Wait, you're telling me that there's a way to actually fix my situation so I don't have to worry about using my quirk anymore? Izuku started jumping up and down in excitement. Yes, there is a chance that this might actually be able to help you, but you actually have to trust me because I actually have very little experience transferring quirks to other people except for one person. Toya was staring at his little brother in disbelief, surprised on what he was hearing, wondering if Izuku actually had the ability to truly fix him. This is going to sound strange, but I feel like I can actually trust you. It feels like your actions and words are actually able to grip onto the things that I fear most and make them go away. I just don't understand how that is possible though. Izuku took a deep breath as he started to calm down as he held out his hand. Just take my hand and I'll be able to transfer the quirk to you, and your body might feel weird for a little bit, so don't try doing anything too crazy. Toya was about to grab onto Izuku's hands as Endeavor actually came into the room, kind of confused about what his two boys were doing. Would the two of you actually like to explain to me what the both of you are doing right now? Toya stood up as he looked at his father, a little nervous, realizing that he might be against this whole idea. Izuku said he might have a quirk that could actually help me with my special condition and possibly make me stronger. Izuku stepped forward, going right in front of his new stepbrother. Yeah, but before all that, Toya came here trying to help me feel better about everything that we've been going through lately. Endeavor smiled as he realized that both of them were trying to help each other out. If the both of you are willing to help each other out, then I'm all for it. I definitely want to see Toya live to his full potential and no longer be worried about using his quirk. Just make sure that you share all of this information with the family later, okay? Endeavor walked away proud, knowing that everyone is accepting Izuku more and more, that they get to know him. As we go back inside the room, we end up seeing Toya grab onto Izuku's hand as he transfers liquid nitrogen to him. When the transfer was complete, they both fall onto their knees as they feel completely exhausted, but when they look back up at each other, they both just start smiling. I think it worked. I definitely feel different, but in a good way, so badly that I now want to actually learn how to use my new quirk. Izuku had a goofy smile on his face. It looks like the both of us will be learning a lot from each other. Before anything else could be said between the two boys, Rei knocked on the door as she looked at both of her son, and then they looked back at her, seeing that she was wearing a cooking apron, and was a little bit confused to see both Toya and Izuku on the floor. Dinner is ready, so make sure that both of you wash up and come meet everyone at the dinner table as quickly as possible. Izuku looked out his window, realizing that it got very late as he got up off the floor. Okay, we'll both be there very soon. Toya got up and started brushing himself off. Sorry if we didn't hear you before, Mom. We'll be there as soon as possible. Rei smiled as she walked down the hall. You better not keep us waiting very long. Both of them looked down the hall to make sure that no one was there, as they then looked back at each other confused. Why are you looking around trying to make sure that no one else is here to hear what we're about to say? Toya started to chuckle very nervously, wondering why his little brother was questioning him. I guess I could say the same thing to you as well. Zuku realized he might be taking a big risk for what he's about to ask Toya. Well, there's kind of something I need to ask you. Do you maybe have a suit in my size? Because there's a place I need to be tonight, and so you know I also plan on sneaking out tonight. Toya took another look around as he started to sweat bullets. As he realized no one was there, he then looked back at his little brother. Yeah, I have an old suit that you could wear in exchange for helping me out. I'm not going to ask any question, but since I'm going to be sneaking out later tonight anyway, I guess I can help you get out of the house as well. Izuku just smiles hearing that response. Well, in exchange for helping me out, I won't won't ask you any questions. After dinner, I'll come over to your room so you can help me into the ceiling and then we can just sneak off together. Both of the boys shared a fist bump as they went to wash their hands and then enjoy dinner with everyone. The whole dinner table looked lively as everyone was eating and getting to know each other a little bit better, but when it was done, Toya and Izuku rushed off to Toya's room, and so they closed the door behind them, making sure that no one was following or listening to them. Toya then quickly goes through his closet looking for one of his old suits that his mother wouldn't let him get rid of, so he then hands it to Izuku so he could try it on. That should fit you perfectly. Now all we need to do is figure out who's going to be our watchful eyes for us while we're not here so they can let us know if we need to get back home quickly. Izuku got a devilish grin on his face. Well, that's what Titan's for. He'll be staying here to make sure that neither of our parents come into these rooms so they can check on us. Toya leaned up against the wall as he put his hand on his chin, very impressed. You truly thought this through. I know originally I wasn't going to ask questions, but if you're willing to go this far, I must know, who are you meeting up with tonight? Izuku lays the old suit down on the bed as he starts thinking about how he should answer this question. Well, are you going to tell me why you sneak out at night? Toya started to sweat bullets, realizing that a kid half his age is actually backing him into a corner. I'll tell you if you promise not to lie, because I feel like whatever it is you're doing might be on the same level of risk that I'm taking. Izuku started to feel a chill as he realized that he could actually use another ally, someone that he can really trust. I'm going to meet up with Overhaul tonight. We're going to discuss business over dinner. He owes me some prize money plus a special quirk for winning his fight club. I was also planning on wanting to convince him on trying to come out of the underworld and start helping actual hero society. Toya lost his posture as he actually slid down the wall and onto his ass as he was completely shocked. Are you completely insane? Don't you realize that Overhaul is one of the biggest crime bosses? If you so much as say the wrong word to the guy, he'll completely erase you. Izuku was worried, thinking that he was about to be ratted out. I understand the consequences, but he's actually not as bad as people make him out to be. I feel like he's just misunderstood like most of the villains that I started to come across. They were put into this line of work because it was the only thing that actually reached out to them, not because they chose it, so now I must let them know that I'm here to help them out and give them a new choice at life. Toya composed himself as he took a few deep breaths and went back into his closet, pulling out a backpack and unzipping it, tossing it onto the ground right next to Izuku, revealing a makeshift hero costume. I do vigilante work since it goes against my code to allow innocent people to risk their lives. I wish to accompany you tonight because I feel that Overhaul will not be coming to this dinner reservation all by himself. Izuku was actually stunned by these actions, realizing that his stepbrother could end up in prison for what he's been doing. But then again, it's like the pot calling the kettle back. If people found out that he was hanging out with Overhaul, he probably would be shipped off to Tartarus. Fine, but you have to stay in your vigilante attire the entire time and make sure that that thing has a mask. I don't want them knowing your actual face. Toya got excited knowing that he's going to be witnessing a mob boss meeting for the first time ever. Izuku looked at his phone, finally getting a text message from Overhaul. Reading it to himself, he then realized he got the coordinates and the time of the meeting that they should be at. We need to make sure that we can get out of the house around 9 so we can be at the restaurant at 10. Toya got nervous, realizing that he's going to be cutting it close because his father doesn't go to bed until at least midnight. It's going to be close, but we'll have to make sure when we're going out the windows to be very, very quiet because Dad might still be up, so keep that in mind and go get ready. Both of them nodded as Izuku rushed to his room holding on to the suit when he noticed Titan was waiting outside of his door. Realizing that this was the opportune moment to tell him about the plan, he quickly grabbed onto his arm and pulled him into the room and closed the door right behind him, making sure that no one noticed. Titan was actually very confused by his master's actions. Is everything okay, boss? You seem like you don't want the family to notice anything that you're doing. Izuku quickly hung up the suit in the closet. You're kinda right. I didn't want them to see me walking around the house holding onto that suit, but there is something I need to tell you. I'm going to be sneaking out of the house tonight with Toya, so I need you to stay here and make sure that our new parents neither go into our rooms or try to check on us. Titan was actually a little bit worried, thinking that his new boss didn't want him to tag along at all. I understand, but why don't you want to take me with you? Don't you think that I would actually be a better backup for you? Izuku was actually a little bit taken back by that response. It's not that I don't trust you, but if the both of us start disappearing in the middle of the night, it's going to look a little bit suspicious, so that's why I need you to stay here and keep an eye on things. I'm basically giving you the more dangerous job. Titan actually started to feel a lot better, realizing the boss was willing to trust him with such a serious task. Make sure that neither of them go into your room or Toya's room, so leave everything to me and don't have to worry about it. Izuku smiled, realizing it didn't take much to convince him to change his mind. Good, but do your best to make it not look suspicious, because I'm going to be leaving in a few hours, so I have to get ready right now. Titan completely understood as he left the room, closing the door behind him very gently as Izuku started to get nervous, realizing what he's going to have to be doing tonight. As he started to think about what he's going to talk about with Overhaul, a couple of hours went went by, he started to realize he only had 15 minutes to actually get ready. He then rushed to get the suit on as he looked at himself in the mirror. The dark green suit actually looked really nice on him, especially when he noticed the double layer of brass buttons on his shirt. He then slid on his nice green dress shoes as he then put the green overcoat draped over his shoulders. As soon as he was finished getting ready, he heard a knocking at his window as he turned his head slowly and saw Toya and nodded and went over and opened the window slowly. Is everybody else asleep already? Toya carefully grabbed onto his little brother as he helped him out of the window and onto the backyard ground. Everyone except for Dad, so we'll have to tiptoe around and make sure to look out for the differences in the lights and try to get away as quickly as possible. Izuku looked at his older brother, noticing that he was wearing a pair of black torn up jeans with a white t-shirt, while also having over it a black torn up trench coat that seemed to go halfway down his legs, while also having bandages wrapped around both of his arms, while wearing a visor that was over half of his face that was completely black with a white outlining covering it. When Izuku looked down at his feet, he then noticed that he was wearing a pair of blue combat boots that had white spikes coming out the side of them. That's a very interesting outfit that you're wearing, but if it's your style, then wear it with pride. Both of the boys moved through the manor carefully and quietly, finally making their way to the front gate as they were about to get over it. They both smile when they get to the other side of the gate and walk towards the front of the house. But as soon as they got past the front porch, they then heard somebody fake cough and they both got extremely nervous. They both turned their heads extremely slowly as they saw Endeavor sitting on the front porch. Endeavor just looked at both of his sons, wondering how they're going to be able to explain their way out of this. So, who wants to explain their situation first? Toya thought that he should try something clever as he grabs onto Izuku by his throat, while with his empty hand he made a massive blue flame in it. Stay back here, you're looking at the vigilante known as Dabi. I've come here to kidnap the Prince of Darkness, and if you get any closer I'll just burn his face off. Endeavor thought that it might be fun to play along while trying to hold back his laughter. Oh really now, I have to deal with a vigilante trying to steal my son. Even though I do not wish to cause any violence tonight, I cannot just let you walk away with him. Izuku didn't know what was happening, but he tried to believe that Endeavor was actually falling for this, so he started to put on a fake scared act. Please don't do anything rash, I don't want him to hurt you, so just let me walk away with him. If anything, I'll come back to you as soon as I can. Endeavor stood up as he started to light his hand on fire. Listen, villain, if you release my son right now, I won't even hurt you. Since I'm also in a very generous mood right now, I'll even let you go. Toya started to get worried, coming up with a makeshift idea as he throws his flames right down on the ground, making a smoke screen, then picking up his little brother. He just starts running for his life. After getting a mile away, he puts Izuku down and seeing that no one was following them. I think we lost him, but I don't know why. It didn't seem like he was actually trying to catch us. We cut back to Endeavor after a few minutes, seeing that he actually went back to the porch bench. As the smoke fully cleared, Ray came out with a cup of tea for him. So be real with me, were you biting onto your tongue so you didn't have to laugh at their foolish act? Endeavor just chuckled a little bit as he took the cup of tea. Yeah, it took a lot for me to keep a straight face, but I trust that the both of them know what they're doing. Ray smiled as she laid her head on Endeavor's shoulders. I think that it's very kind that you let Toya do his vigilante work, and now that you allow Izuku to do whatever mysterious thing that he wants, it shows that you really have good faith in both of them. Endeavor just kindly looked up at the stars with a smile on his face. If I were a betting man, I would say that he's meeting with Overhaul tonight because the both of them have very much unfinished business. As we head back to Izuku and Toya trying to keep to the shadows as they were trying to get to the restaurant as quickly as possible, they realized that they actually were going to get there earlier than they expected as they arrived. They see that it's actually an Italian restaurant. Once they open the door, they realize that no one was there, almost like the restaurant was closing. As one of the waiters quickly came up to them, "Are you all for one?" Izuku wasn't sure on how to answer this question. It depends on who is asking. The waiter then pointed towards the back room as the both of them see Overhaul sitting at a table. The man in the back is asking because he asked us to close the restaurant for the entire night to the public so he can have this private meeting. Izuku just nods. Yes, I'm all for one, and this is my associate Dabi, if you wouldn't mind escorting us to our table. The waiter quickly obliged as he walked the both of them to the back room. As they stepped through the curtain, they noticed Overhaul sitting at the gigantic table with two other associates. The one on his right being Rappa, and the other one to his left actually being known as the villain Chronostasis. Then the both of them noticed a little man walking around on the table as he was going to sit right next to Rappa, revealing himself to be Mimic as both of them finally take their seats at the table. Overhaul looked up from his menu, actually happy to see that the both of them were here quite early. Well, this is a surprise. I thought that you would be coming alone, or at least be bringing your brainwashing friend, so this must be some new associate of yours that I don't know about. Izuku smiled, seeing that actually both parties did bring their own form of backup. Yes, we meet quite recently, but I feel like I could trust him. His name is Dabi. Dobby just nods as he starts looking around the restaurant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Overhaul. There isn't a villain or a vigilante or even a hero who hasn't heard of me, but then again, your reputation seems to precede you as always. Overhaul looked at both of them, especially the new hired help. I will at least say you made a name for yourself, Dobby. You've taken down a few big names ever since you've taken onto your vigilante career. Mimic then hopped up onto the table as he walked over to Izuku. So you're the new Prince of Darkness. Not going to lie, I was expecting a lot more. You don't look that tough. Appa quickly grabbed onto Mimic and tossed him back into his seat. You may not be able to see it, but you should know that he was the one who took down the Crimson King along with the Gold King. He is truly powerful, and I hope to one day battle against him. Izuku was enjoying knowing that he at least made an impact on some of these people sitting at the table. Well, I'm sorry I don't look like my predecessor, Mimic, but I have to say you don't look that impressive either. Chronostasis started chuckling a little bit after hearing what he said to Mimic. I like this kid, he's not afraid to speak his mind. You're just as fun as Overhaul said you were going to be. Mimic got extremely annoyed. What the hell is up with you, Rappa? And watch your mouth, kid. Don't forget that we outrank you in this situation. Overhaul actually got angry hearing what Mimic just said. And who gave you the authority to say something like that, Mimic? Both All For One and myself sit at the same rank. If you were talking to his associate, I wouldn't have any issues, but I hope for your sake that you're going to start showing our guests a little bit more respect. Mimic started to fear for his life. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to speak out of tone. Izuku put his hand out trying to defuse the situation. It's alright, so let's not get aggressive about it. I really want to get down to business right now. Overhaul started to chuckle out of amusement by the statement that Izuku just made. Careful, kid, if you keep talking like that, people are going to start confusing you for your master. You sound just like him. Izuku scowled a little bit annoyed because he's been hearing that statement a lot lately. I really wish you wouldn't say something like that to me. As much as I appreciate my predecessor, I wish to make my own impact on the world in my own way. Dobby put his hand on Izuku's shoulder, giving him a look like he needs to calm down. It's alright, boss, he's just trying to give you a compliment that seems to get underneath your skin. Overhaul sat back in his chair thinking about how he wants to handle these negotiations. I'm truly sorry if what I said offended you, but we must really get down to business, so can I see the flash drive that you were telling me about earlier? Izuku reached into his coat pocket as he pulled out the flash drive to show everyone. Do you have a computer so I can plug it in? Mimic reaches underneath the table. As he pops back up, he pulls out a small laptop to show everybody, and then he slides it over to Izuku. This should be able to process whatever on that flash drive. Izuku nodded as he plugged in the flash drive into the small computer as he opened up all the files and then turned the computer to show everybody. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't completely understand what's on this flash drive or all of its components, but I do know this: whatever is on here can actually boost your organization research by 100-fold. Overhaul watched the laptop screen with intense eyes as he saw all of this information hit him like a whirlwind, all the genetic research that he actually would need for his experimentation. What you have there is truly amazing, but in the wrong hands it could end up destroying the world instead of helping it, so are you sure you actually want to make a deal with me about this? Chronostasis actually started to get very curious about all this as he moved his hand back and forth trying to get everyone's attention. Before negotiation could go any further, I must know, what are you after? It seems like you don't know anything about us, but are you truly after only quirks, or are you actually trying to buy your way into the organization? Dobby was annoyed by Chronostasis interrupting the conversation between Overhaul and Izuku. Where do you get the right to interrupt the conversation between both of our bosses? You should have just sat there in your seat being quiet so they can get there at their own pace. Chronostasis got up from the table like he was getting ready for a fight. Watch it, you're in our territory. Last time someone spoke to us like that, they ended up leaving in a body bag. Dobby stood up as his left hand lit on fire. If you want to take this outside, I'll be happy to oblige. Izuku have heard enough as he stood up, slamming his hand onto the table, making the noise echo throughout the restaurant, getting everyone's attention. Why is it that the full-grown adults are acting like children and the children are actually acting like adults? We came here to talk civilized, not to fight, remember? Overhaul actually stood up from his chair as he looked at Chronostasis with a very intense glare. Kid's right, sit back down in your chair and behave. You're embarrassing the entire organization by acting like this. Overhaul then turned back to face Izuku. Please accept my apology. He's only trying to do what's best for the entire group, but I must ask, what are you here for? What exactly do you think that my organization can help you with? Izuku took a deep breath as he sat back in his chair ready to explain his whole idea. I wish for you to change the route of your organization. Instead of trying to destroy quirks, you help try to find a balance between powerless and powerful people. I know it goes against everything that you've been working for, but I feel like if we work together, we can clear not only your organization name, but maybe get you back into hero society. Overhaul got a very serious look on his face, like he wasn't pleased with what he was hearing. I don't know if any of that is even possible. Even if we wanted to go clean, everything goes against our entire organization, coming from illegal drug to experimentation. But I do have an idea, but we'll have to make sure that both sides of us agree to the terms that we're about to set forward. Rappa didn't really understand what was going on, but he wanted to make sure that one thing was clear. Hey, even if we start working together, we'll still get to fight. Ever since I saw you at the fight club, I wanted to go one-on-one against you. Chronostasis felt uneasy, wondering what his boss was really going to do about all this. You can't be seriously thinking about changing our goals just because some kid asked you to do so, right? Izuku just smiled, enjoying what he was hearing. To answer both of your questions, I would say that even if we do team up, we could always have a few fun sparring matches. And you do realize that this kid is taking down a lot of the heavy hitters in the underground, along with being able to give you information that could really help out with all of your research. Overhaul was thinking that this kid was very impressive for his age, while also thinking a lot about his predecessor's teaching being passed on to him. Let's say I'm willing to shut down my entire drug operation and stop most of my illegal experiments, but not all of them, in exchange for all the information that you're going to get from all of your future hideouts. Izuku started to feel like he was actually making some headway, but he wanted to make sure on one more thing. I also want us to be in direct contact with each other about everything, so when you start doing new projects or have your men move out on new things, I want to know about it firsthand. Overhaul felt accomplished knowing that all the help that he gave the kid back at the fight club truly did pay off in the end, and now he takes off his plague doctor's mask and shows his real face. Alright then, I'm willing to play your game. My group will go legit, but you'll have to listen to my one last idea. Izuku smiled, wondering what Overhaul was about to say to him. Go right ahead, I'm all ears for whatever it is you have to say since you've been listening to me this entire time. Overhaul knew what he was about to say could be risky. It could even cause his entire team to go against him. Now let's be real, no matter how much we try to talk about it, no matter what you say to the higher ups, they're never going to let my entire group get away with what we've done. So if I was willing to hand over all of my lower ranks to the heroes while also shutting down my drug facilities and giving them all of my experimentation documents, do you think that they would allow my 8 precepts along with myself to have a clean slate as long as you're willing to use your high up hero connections? Papa just looked at his boss as he was completely surprised, not knowing what to think about this entire situation even more. Overhaul, you can't be serious. You truly would throw away everything that we worked for just so you can clear all of our records? Probably would make a better deal if you're willing to sacrifice all of us just so you can continue to do what you believe is right, because that is our goal as well. Chronostasis stood up as he put both of his hands on Overhaul's coat jacket and just started shaking him around a little bit, not wanting to believe what he just heard. Why? What has he done to you to make you change everything that you stand for? Did he brainwash you or blackmail you? Just tell us. We want to help you, but you have to make sure that you're actually able to justify your own actions to me. Overhaul grabs onto Chronostasis' wrist and pulls his hand off of his coat. Simple. The organization has technically been dying out for these past few years. Even if we were able to get enough funds to start working on that special drug that I've been designing, it wouldn't matter because I haven't figured out a way to stabilize it. We're running in circles. At least this way we can get a fresh start and our research could actually be used for some good. And yes, I'm not looking forward to working with people who have quirks, but I'll have to learn to deal with that. But this kid opened my eyes in the short amount of time that I've come across him, that even those with a dark heart have the right to change, along with the fact that I actually want to know the history about all for one. Chronostasis was actually shocked hearing all this. As he let go, Izuku then walked up to him and put his hand on his shoulder. I don't expect you to trust me or understand what's really going on here, but I need you to look at this with an open mind. Your boss, no, your friend, is trying to save your life instead of throwing it away. Chronostasis turned to look at the young boy as his face was completely shocked, thinking that somebody so young could think of something so obvious while he could not. I just don't want him to sacrifice everything for a false promise and have it then blow up in his face. Papa then finally got up from his seat as he put both of his arms right between Chronostasis and Izuku. I think this is for the best. You may not think that I'm able to actually have heavy thought besides fighting, but I care about all of you just like you probably care about me, so I think that we should all calm down and listen to the boss. In that moment, Mimic jumped up on top of Rappa's head. Trust me, we're all upset about this, but maybe this is a sign that we need to turn over a new leaf. If Overhaul believes that we should go legit, we should respect his wishes, because if it wasn't for him, we would be dead somewhere in a gutter. Izuku brushed the three of them aside as he pulled out his cell phone, placing it on the table right in front of Overhaul. I put Endeavor's phone number on speed dial. If you truly want to go legit and change your life along with your friends, all you have to do is give him a call. Overhaul looked at the cell phone, not knowing what he should do about all this, wishing that he didn't have to give up on everything everything that he was going for. But ever since he came across this young boy, he believes that he should follow him and believes that he knows the way to get things back on track for the world. As he picks up the cell phone and dials the number. Hello there, Endeavor. I would like to discuss making a deal with you. That's where I'm going to leave it off now, guys. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you like, put a comment in this video and leave a like down below. To all who gave me quirk suggestions, I'm sorry I did not put them out here in the video. I will make sure to give you a community tab shout out so you know that you were respected for giving me these ideas. But with all that said, I'm out. Peace.